today we're going to talk about equivalent ratios. Okay, so learned the word equivalent earlier in the year. We talked about fractions. Equivalent is a fancy way of saying equal, okay, the same. Okay, so equivalent ratios are going to be ratios. Equivalent ratios are going to be two ratios that describe the same relationship. Okay, two ratios that are describing the same relationship. Okay, so it's interesting, you usually think of relationships between people, but we can also have relationships between money, numbers, other items, things. How are things the same? How do they relate to each other? How do they compare to each other? So here we're going to have two ratios that are describing the same thing, the same relationship. So here I have some coins that I had here in my desk, and I have some quarters and I have some pennies. So first I want to find my ratio of quarters to pennies. Ratio of quarters to pennies. All right, so I'm going to count up my quarters here. Get pennies on there. I'm going to count up my quarters. I have 1, 2, 3 quarters. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pennies. So my ratio of quarters to pennies is 3 to 9. 3 to 9. Well, is there another way that I can explain that ratio? Is there a way that I can even maybe reduce it or simplify it a little bit? Really what that ratio means, for every 3 quarters I have 9 pennies. So for every 3 quarters, I have 9 pennies. But can I group them another way? So let's see if I can organize them this way. So here I have my 3 quarters, and I'm going to group my pennies out here. So here are my 9 pennies. But if you see, when I reorganize them, my 3 quarters to my 9 pennies, you can see I have some equal groups. Here I have 1 quarter for 3 pennies. Again, I have 1 quarter and 3 pennies, and here I have 1 quarter and 3 pennies. So I can actually write this ratio for not only for every 3 quarters do I have 9 pennies, but also for every 1 quarter I have 3 pennies. For every 1 quarter I have 3 pennies. So that's also a ratio. These two ratios are equivalent because they are describing the same relationship between the quarters and the pennies. For every quarter, I have 3 pennies. That is my ratio, 1 to 3 or 3 to 9. They're equivalent, meaning that they are describing the same situation. Okay, if you think back to your fractions, if I wrote them out as their values, 3/9 is equal to 1/3. This is 1 times 3 is 3. 3, whoops, sorry about that again. All right, 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. We're growing by the same amount. We're growing by the same times, okay? So these are equivalent ratios. And we're going to do a little bit more practice with equivalent ratios in our next video.